Okay, what do we have here? This one looks pretty interesting to me. We got trashing, hideout, raise, kind of, sort of, taxman. Taxman's not really trashing. I mean, it trashes cards, but it doesn't make your deck any thinner. You got villages, crown, looks like the best village here. There's also hideout. Actually, maybe hideout's gonna be good here with tomb around. We got plus buy with market. Got draw with scholar, and occasionally patrician. So where is this going? What things can you do with toil? This is one of those cards that I feel like it's often unintuitive to play with because you're playing actions at a weird time. You're playing in the buy phase, so you can do things like you can toil a monument, which costs 2 and gets 2 back. So toiling a monument just makes the monument like sort of equivalent to like +1 action, +1 victory coin, but not +2 money. Anything else of note? Could you do like toil scholar for draw? I don't think that works. The problem is there's really like 2 segments of the buy phase. There's like buy phase part 1 where you play all your treasures, and then buy phase part 2 where you're actually like buying things. And the latter is like a little bit more restrictive. So like you can play actions in the buy phase part 1 with like capitalism, for example. If you like buy the event capitalism or the project capitalism, and then you could play like your markets while you're playing treasures. And then that's nice because if you draw treasures with that, you can still play the treasures. But like here, if I'm playing actions with toil, it's not just in the buy phase, it's in like part 2 of the buy phase where you're no longer allowed to play treasures. So even if I like toiled a scholar and drew treasures, I couldn't play them. So I don't think that you can do like a toil based engine here where you just toil action cards repeatedly in the buy phase. You need to have like action cards that give 3 or more money. Like you could toil scholar, draw a bunch of animal fairs or something, then toil those, and that would pay for itself. But I don't think that's available here. So I think what we want to do is probably more along the lines of just like hideout, scholar, some crowns and markets, and some monuments, and then just have a draw to X deck that probably never greens, because I mean green doesn't work great in that deck, and then both monument and tomb just encourage you to continue spinning for very long periods of time. So how are we opening? Raise seems like kind of automatic on the 3. And then I think the 4 can either be hideout or monument. Monument's better at getting you to 5, which is good. Hideout's better at trashing things, which is also good. I guess the question is how much you value being thin relative to hitting 5 early. He's gone for the hideout. I think I'm inclined to agree. I don't value the 5s all that badly. I think I'm gonna get the monument anyway. I mean, like the 5s aren't like a huge priority, but neither is getting super thin early, I don't think. Like scholar's a decent amount of sifting. And so I think I'm fine if I'm a little bit slower to get thin than he is. I've still got raise. Raise is going to be a fine trasher. But I'm not in enough of a rush to get thin that I feel compelled to open with 2 trashers. And we'll see if that pays off. Maybe just a second raise here. I do want hideout at some point for sure. Okay, so I could take the copper, buy 5. Then those bottom cards have 4 coppers, a raise, and an estate. Alternatively, I could take the scholar, play the monument, toil the scholar, draw all the cards. I couldn't use the cards because, again, it's too late in my buy phase, but it would just clear off all this junk from the top, and then I could still buy a 2-cost. Or I could even toil that second raise. I think I like that line a little bit better. I think I value trashing a little bit more than I value buying another $2 card. So I'm just going to trash the copper. So I think we've trashed an equivalent number of cards now. Behind by 1 on victory points, which means he's trashed more total cards. But one of those was his raise, which isn't really like you're not trashing one of your starting cards. We've trashed an equivalent number of our 10 starting cards, is what I mean to say. I don't know who's in the lead. I kind of like my position. I like having a scholar, but Hideout is also a good card in this deck. Here, the next cards I want, I think, are Hideout and Market. Market for the plus buy, Hideout for the plus action. I think I want the Market before the Hideout. Not that that's super clear. Okay. I think I'm just gonna take the copper and buy the Market. So if I play this scholar, I will not hit 4, I don't think. Those bottom cards have 2 raises, a temple, not a temple, a monument, same thing. 2 raises, a monument, a market. What else? Two coppers. That's it all. So I would hit 3. I would draw those 2 coppers and one of the coppers of the cards currently in my hand. I think that's worse. The upside to it is I could toil the monument for free. It would just be like 1 free victory point. The downsides to it are hitting 3 seems a pretty decent bit worse than 4 to me. I want to buy a Hideout now. And also, I believe that would top deck 3 of these 4 coppers, which would make my next turn unlikely to be good. Now I think I'm just going to pop the raises and hope to find both the Hideout and the Scholar. That would make me very happy. I don't need the raises as much anymore anyway, now that I got the Hideout in my deck, to get rid of the rest of these coppers. This deck will probably end up buying coppers back to feed to the Hideouts. It's also worth points because of Tomb. We're going to play the Market before the raise because that bottom card is Monument, which I know I want. And now I've got a 2/3 chance of drawing the Scholar. Yep. Alright, 8 is a pretty big number. What do I want now? Kind of want a second Market pretty soon. This could also just be another Hideout and another Monument. Crown is also not bad. Oh, you know, it's something I didn't even think about until just now. I mean, you could get a crown off of Taxman. Like you Taxman your copper into silver and then Taxman the silver into a crown. You could gain crowns off of that. That's kind of nifty. Now I'm somewhat persuaded that I should be playing with a Taxman in my deck. And it even comes with points because you're trashing cards. I'm talking myself into a Taxman. I'm going to do it. We'll see how it works. Well, this hand is terrible. I don't think I can really blame my buys for that, though. I did buy an extra village just then. I probably want a second scholar. My deck doesn't really need two scholars. Like to draw itself, one should cut it. But having two increases the chance that I find at least one of those scholars on the top. Like what I really want to line up is a hideout and a scholar to kick my turn off. Maybe two is too much. I don't know. It's possible that was just a mistake. The downside of taking a second scholar early when I don't really need it is it could have been another card. And if I'm playing too conservative about making sure that I don't dud, then I'm also not building as fast as I can. How did he get a gold in his deck? He bought it? On turn? How did I not notice that? Why? That doesn't make any sense to me. What's a gold doing for you? I don't know. That is stranger to me than the Mass Bazaar play from game 1. Ooh, I think I just gotta take the 40% chance of finding a scholar here, and it does not pay off. This is not a good draw. This is actually maybe somewhat likely, maybe even my fault. Did I make this happen? It's possible I did this to myself. The two scholars being together with no villages down there is just really bad. Really, really bad. I seem somewhat likely to dud again. Yikes. I can't afford to play this Taxman, can I? Those bottom cards are definitely two scholars. Oops. And two coppers. So if I play this Taxman, I top deck a dud hand. Yeah, that's just... If I found either of the two... Yeah, this is horrible. If I found either of those two scholars, I would be in a perfectly fine position, I think. But this is now 3 dud hands in a row. And they kind of compound. Because, like... And this is the place where I think maybe I should have thought about it more. Is buying the second scholar, put a second scholar next to my first scholar in the deck, if you think about it that way. Where I triggered a shuffle, and that shuffle had 2 scholars in it. And so perhaps safer was on that turn where I bought the second scholar, buying a second hideout. Or a third hideout, just so it's going to be in the same shuffle as the 1 scholar that I have. Now, I mean, that works out better given the shuffle that I do have. The downside, of course, is I was also not unlikely to draw one of the 2 scholars there. And if I'd done that, I would have been totally fine. So I'm not sure that the scholar buy was bad, but it seems quite possible that maybe I should have considered that I was going to create a hand like this. But yeah, this is horrible. These draws are really, really bad for my chances of winning. The gold is still dumbfounding to me, but like everything else about... Actually, the silvers is... Why do he have silvers in his deck? I don't get the treasures. The rest of this deck looks perfectly sensible. I don't understand why he has treasures that aren't crowned in it, though. I think I just need to pitch all of this. It doesn't have either of my draw cards in it. Yeah, he found his 1 scholar at the top of the shuffle. I seem to be pretty behind now, for sure. really behind. Yeah. Okay, here we go. We found our draw cards. This deck still doesn't do a whole lot, though. This deck does a fat lot of nothing, is what it does. I think those early duds are just going to be incredibly insurmountable at this point. Yeah, my deck is hitting 5. His is hitting 23. That's not a good sign. I like what his deck's doing now. I don't understand the weird foray into silvers and golds, but he seems to have backed out of that plan, which seems correct. His deck also seems very unlikely to dud now. Ooh, I'm hitting 6. Big numbers. Big numbers. Yeah, this is just over. There's not enough markets left in the pile for me to have any reasonable amount of plus buy. It means I also can't really threaten to win the game on a pile or anything, even if he does dud.